I am 5 years old and terrified the first time I arrive at Fordham Hospital in the Bronx. My mother holds my hand as she leads me into her room, but lets go of it to give me a gown. Take your clothes off and put this on, she says. It will make it easier for the doctor to examine you. Then she's gone. She leaves me there alone. 3 weeks pass by before I see her again. I am taken to the children's ward. In the morning, they'll operate on me to correct my crossed eyes. With bright lights and the sounds of children crying and nurses walking around, it takes me a long time to fall asleep. In the morning, they lift me onto a gurney and roll me into the operating room. I am terrified. The table, 3 big spotlights over my head, doctors and nurses in green gowns with masks and hats on their heads, a machine with dials and hoses beside me. They put a mask over my nose and mouth. They give me ether and tell me to count to 100. I enter another world, a real nightmare, all brown and black, under a speeding train. There are goblins, monkey faces, like in The Wizard of Oz, rushing toward me and screaming at me. When I awake, I can't see. There are bandages over my eyes, which will remain in place for the rest of my 3-week stay. My family comes to visit me once. My dad, who works in the hospital, visits me once. But where is my mother? Why isn't she here? I feel as if I don't have a mother anymore. I begin to resent her. This is her fault, I tell myself. She did this to me. Hateful insults fill my head. She's fat. She's ugly, stupid. She has blue hair. She disgusts me. Back home, I laugh when her dentures fall out when she's yelling at me. I am one of the youngest of 6 kids, so my mother is older. I feel guilty about these thoughts. Deep down, I do love her, but I'm scared and angry. I feel abandoned by her. The first operation fails. I return to the hospital for another operation the next year when I'm 6. Once again, my mother brings me there, then vanishes until it's time for my release. I love my mother, but it's hard to trust her. It's hard to trust her love. Later, it's hard to trust other women. The first woman is Helen. I'm 16 in 1970 when my family moves from the Bronx to Wappinger Falls. Helen lives in my new building. She becomes my closest female friend. I fall in love with her, but she's way too good for me, a kid from the Bronx. She's tall, beautiful, intelligent, comes from a wealthy family. I'm scared to do anything about it except joke. I sit in the back row of the school bus with all the cool kids. Helen sits in front of me. I say in a joking way, "Ah, Helen, my love, I love you more than the stars in the sky." And she turns around briefly, smiling shyly. But what if she were to instead turn around and say, "Are you serious, Gerard?" I can't seriously declare my love for her. Helen and I do everything together. Ice skating, sleigh riding, hiking, concerts. I go to her house after school and we hang out and brush and braid each other's long hair. Helen invites me to her family's place in Saranac Lake in the Adirondacks. That night, at their cabin on the lake, Helen says, "Gerard, you can sleep in here with me if you want." I say, "No, I'm comfortable out here on the couch." I'm terrified, afraid to trust her kindness, to believe that she likes me, that she won't leave me. When I'm 19, I'm newly sober and living in an ashram. I meet Pat. Pat, a friend of Helen's older sister, she says, "Helen was so in love with you. You were all she ever talked about." I decide to visit her. That night, Helen says, "Would you like to make love to me?" I've been dreaming about this for years. My heart freezes. I can't breathe. I tell her, "Of course I want to. Do you have any wine?" I drink a glass, ending my 9-month sobriety. My heart races. I'm terrified by the love of a good woman. I drink another glass. It's still racing. I drink another and another. All I can do is fuck her and leave her before she can decide to leave me. I don't know how to love a woman. There are others too. I put on my superhero cloak of charm, coolness, my bullshit, until I win them over. But eventually that gets boring, tiring, and I am myself. When any of my partners want too much from me or voice complaints, I get scared, I attack and push them away. And what's next? They leave. See, I told you so. Just like my mother, every woman I love leaves. In 1976, I'm 21 and about to marry Carol. Approaching the wedding, I realize I am not in love with her. But my mother likes Carol. And now my mother has ovarian cancer. How can I back out now when my mother is about to die? It would break her heart. I never tell my mother I love her. Never show her love, even though I realize she is a beautiful, loving, gentle, and intelligent woman. I know that from the time my father died when I was 12, she was totally overwhelmed being a single mom of 6 children. She wanted me to get a job then. "Gerard, you're the man in the house now. Go get a job," she said. But I was still a kid. I wanted to play with the other kids, so I didn't get a job. This and my desire to be an artist and my alcoholism make my mother think I'm a bum. If I call off the wedding, she'll really think I'm a bum. I don't want my mother to think of me that way, so I go through with it. Soon afterwards, though, I begin an affair with Katya, someone I'd met and fallen in love with on the plane a few years before when I went to the Guru Puja festival in London. I'm not in love with my wife, but I'm terrified to leave. What if Katya doesn't love me? What if I leave only to get left? I come home one night and my wife wants to make love for the first time in months. She's ovulating. She gets pregnant. I'm still having my affair with Katya when my son is born. I go on to have affairs with other women too. Becoming a father, having affairs, dealing with my mother's illness, all happening at once caused me tremendous anxiety. I begin smoking pot again. My mother is in the hospital, withering into a skeleton with skin draped over it. It's hard to visit for long. I freeze, I go numb and feel nothing. I go out to the street and smoke a joint. Ah, relief. I go back inside, but again, I'm frozen. I can't breathe, and I can't cry. My mother is leaving me for good this time. I go outside and smoke another joint, and then another, and another, and another.